initially I usually run through what I'm going to be using today, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to crack on. I'm just going to show you a little technique for just making a 1-layer card, but try and give them a little bit of added interest. Okay, so I've already started because I didn't want to spend, I would have been here for a lot more than half an hour if I hadn't have already done this first layer. Okay, so I've used the fabulous spring tulips. I've not used them before, if I'm honest, and I thought I was looking for something a little bit different, and I thought, yeah, let's go with something spring-like. I'm not using the embossing folder, I'm only using the die, and then I'm using the layering stencils, as you can see. So if I just put those to one side for now. Now I've already done the first layer because the first layer is in colour, but the other 2 layers that I'm going to do are just grey. Okay, I know that sounds a bit ooh, but trust me, it won't be when you've done them. So what you need to do, having done your first layer, is work out where you need your second and third layers. All right, so I would use number 5 stencil because you're going to be able to line them all up. If you can line this one up with your first one, then you're going to be able to line them all up. Okay, so I'm lining this up, as you can see, with the one that I've already done. So my stencil is lined up, so it's all going to be on one level. That's what I'm actually looking for. Now obviously this is a DL stencil set, so I'm using a DL card. You don't have to use a DL card, you can use an 8x8, but again, I'm trying to think postage costs, and the bigger the card, the more it's going to cost you. So I've lined this one up so I know that the card is where I want it to be. So what I now need to do is line up the flowers so that I know that the flowers are going to be sitting in the right place. Okay, so I'm going to use number 4. I'm going to put it on top of number 5 just because I can, really. Now the flowers are lining up beautifully, and I know they're going to be in the right place because they're on the peg system. All right, what I don't want to worry about is whereabouts on the card they're going to appear. All right, what I want this next layer to do is sit behind the coloured stenciling that I've already done. All right, so when you're doing sort of masking and whatever, what you need to make sure of is that the thing you want to appear on the top you do first, and then you mask everything off so that other things appear behind it. Okay, so I just put my stencils back in order so that I don't go wrong. Now I'm actually going to take this piece of card down here just for my peace of mind so that I know it's not going to move, because that's not what I want to happen. Now I've already cut my mask out, and I've already put a little bit of washi tape on here just to keep it in the right place. So all I want to do is just cover that coloured stenciling that I've already done. And the only reason I'm putting a bit of washi tape on is that I don't want this mask to move. Okay, so then we can start and put our second layer down. Now the second layer is the easy layer. The third layer is slightly more involved because you won't be able to use your pegs, but we'll come to that. So I'm using the Cobblestones blending ink, Lisa's Cloud 9 blending ink, and I'm going quite soft here. I'm using one of the Wonder brushes because I can get a lighter coverage using the Wonder brushes. Because I can hold it so far back, I know that I'm not going to get a deep colour, because I don't want a lot of colour on here. I want a hint of colour. And all I would say is do every aperture, right? Don't worry about, don't try and work out rather where your stenciling is going to appear behind the coloured image that you've already done. All right, now the one thing I am going to do is just add a little bit of paper down here so that I don't come over the edge of that stencil and onto my white card, because that would just spoil the effect. So I'm going down here with grey, quite light, and when I take this off you'll see how light it is. But I'm doing circular motions, and don't forget, when you're using your underbrushes and you're doing these circular motions, go in both directions, and that way you will fill all those little apertures. So yeah, we'll just go with that and see how that looks. I think it'll be absolutely fine, because as I say, I don't want it to be really, really heavy. Okay, so you can see how light it is, really. Make sure your stencils are clean as well, because what you don't want is to leave any colour on your stencils from your first layer, because you're going to spoil the grey effect if you don't take all the colour off your stencils. So make sure they're clean. Okay, now again, another layer, again quite soft. It doesn't matter how heavy you go, really. It doesn't matter how soft you go. It's whatever look you want to achieve at the end of the day. And I don't think any two layers of just grey are going to look the same. So don't worry about it looking exactly the same. It's not going to. So all we're doing is working our way through the numbers. Now you can see here that this flower hangs off the edge. I'm really not worried about that. All I want is to give the impression of flowers sort of in the distance behind the main image. So I'm not worried that it's going to hang over the edge of this card. It's not going to affect the finished picture. By the time you've added your third layer, it's going to be absolutely fine. And it's such a cool effect. I've already done two, which I'll show you at the end, and I've used totally different stencil sets on both cards. So there'll be three at the end, totally different, but along similar lines. So work your way through, and as I say, this layer is the easier layer of the two, because when you come to putting your flowers this side, you're not going to be able to use your pegs. I'm sure there would probably be a way, but I've not worked it out yet. But who knows? I'm sure somebody will. And again, like I say, don't worry about the depth of colour you're getting, because you're not really looking for a great deal of detail on the ones in the background. All you're doing is putting a hint of flowers in the background behind your main image. Okay, so our last layer, and then we can go and do the third layer. Just make sure that looks okay. Yeah, that looks fine. So I'll just move this piece of paper out of the way. I'm going to take this tape off here, because I'm going to have to move this card now. And then I'm just going to take my mask off here. I can put it back in a minute. But if I show you that already, you can see that you've now got flowers in the background, but without them being intrusive into the main picture. But it just gives your card an extra sort of element, without having to add layers and layers and layers. So in order to make sure that I've got my card back in the right place, I'm going to go back with number 5. Now I want to make sure that this is level again, so I'm going to have to mark my card this time. Alright, so I want it reasonably close to this one, because you can see there's hardly any gap between this one and the grey one. So I want similar on this layer as well. So that's about right. So I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to put myself a line on my card here, and then on my silicone mat. It will come off, so don't worry about it. And I'm just going to pop a line there and a line there, just so that I know that they're all going to line up in the same place. Okay, I'll put my piece of paper out of the way, put my mask back on my piece of paper. Now I'm taking the tape off this side. I'm going to put the tape on the other side because I'm going to be stenciling through here, so I don't want the tape to be in the way. Okay, so remember to move your tape to the other side that you're not working on. Okay, I'm just going to stick my card down just so that I know it's not going to move. It's more sort of belt and braces really. I'm not worried about it moving really. I just sort of want to make absolutely certain. Okay, so now we've got our lines to line up our stencils. We can just hold these down, and again I'm going to go back with that piece of paper and I'm going to put it at the top here because I don't want any ink coming over the other side. Alright, don't worry about my pegs because I can't use them anyway. So if I stick that down there and stick that down there, I can leave that piece of paper in place and know it's right. Okay, so everything else is right. I'm going to use my magnets, and then my stencil shouldn't move, but I'm going to hold it as well anyway. So again, we're going in with grey and we're going to do every aperture, whether we think it's going to show on the back or not. That way you know you're not going to miss anything. Okay, and again, quite a light touch because you don't want this to be sort of, you know, leaping out at you. You just want it to be a hint of colour, hint of grey in the background. Alright, so we'll just lift that up and make sure that's okay. Yeah, that's fine. And then we'll do number 2. And again, we've got our lines to line everything up. So we've got the lines at the side and the line at the bottom. Obviously covered up the lines at the top. I'll put my magnets down and then go over again with my grey. So it's sort of like, I suppose, similar to the spotlight technique that I did on Monday. The same but different. So you're using grey to show up your colours, and then sort of your grey will highlight your colours, if you like, make them stand out, make them more prominent. So I just left that off, that's fine. So you just, again, working your way through the stencils in number order, and you're just adding your ink down in all those apertures. Okay, and again, like I say, don't worry about whether you've got enough ink, whether you've not got enough ink. It really isn't going to matter. I'm just going to move this to the other side, make it easier for myself. Just quite mindful this, because every one that you do is going to look completely different. Quite similar but different. But you can get that hint of flowers in the background, and I just think it's a way of adding some interest without adding any extra weight, any extra depth to your cards, so you haven't got to worry about increasing the costs of your postage. So again, now we can add our bottom part of our leaves down, and we know that it's going to line up because we've already done that bit. We've already lined it all up so that we know it's all sort of on one level. And then we're going in with the last one. And obviously not all this detail is going to show on all the flowers, but the bits of detail that do show are just going to lift the one that you've done first with all the colours on. Now you can see why I didn't want to do the colours as well, because of the time it takes. It's quick, but if I was doing a coloured layer and then 2 grey layers, we'd be here till tea time. So let's just move that out of the way. Okay, so that's our inking, hopefully all done, and I can take away this and this, and then we can do the full reveal. I'll just rub these pencil lines out on my card first, get those done out of the way. Okay, just get rid of that, and then take my washi tape off, peel it off gently just so that it doesn't take with it any ink from behind. Okay, take my mask off, and there you've got your beautiful flowers in the foreground with your flowers in the background, just to give it some added interest. And you can see it's all level, and it doesn't matter that it's gone off the edge of the card. It's just the effect it gives you, and I just think it's really cool. So to add it down to my card, I'm adding it to a DL card. It's not quite a DL, if I'm honest, because what I did was just cut down an 8x8. Hadn't got any DL cards, so I've cut this piece just to sort of sit just on the inside of that measurement. Now, because I want it one layer, I'm not going to mat and layer this. What I am going to do is add my colour by using a marker. So I'm using a Copic, and I'm using the flat end that nobody uses because nobody knows what it's for. And all I'm going to do is draw a line using one of the colours that I've used on the flowers, and I've gone for the purple because I think it'll stand out better. And I'm just going to do a small frame right round the edge, so that it will look, when you added it to your card, it will look like a mat and layer. It's such a cool idea, because it also saves your card, because you haven't got to worry about cutting a piece of card up. So if you're low on card, this is a cool trick to give you a matte and layered look without actually matting and layering. So I'll just go all the way around with my marker. I think that looks really cool. And then all I've got to do is add it to my card base. So I'm going to glue that down like so. Such a cool, quick idea. And it's not going to cost you much to post, because, as I say, it's all on one layer. Could have probably gone over a little bit there, but I think that's about right. And then you just need to add your sentiment. Now, I've used the bold phrases, but you could use the bold words, you could use any of Lisa's sentiment dies, stamps, the scripted sentiments. It depends what sort of look you want. I quite like these bold phrases. I think they're awesome. They cover so many different occasions. So again, I've gone with the same colours that I've used on my flowers, pink and purple, just to tie it all in. What could be easier? What could be? I think that looks like a bought card. You know, it's I just think it's a really lovely look to a card. Now that's a DL. This one is a 7x7. Now I used the Peony Rose stem for this one, so now I can show you what I've used. So the Tulips was the first one. The Peony Rose stem is this one, and when I'd finished it, I did think I'd gone a little bit too far over with this grey one. But again, I really don't think it matters, because all you're looking for is some interest behind your main image. Maybe I could have gone a little bit darker with the main image colours, but then again, it doesn't really matter, does it? So that's the 7x7, and then this one, I sort of gone away from the saving postage bit with this one, because this is an 8x8, and I did raise the sentiment up a little bit. So for this one I used the Spring Anemone, and you can see here that I added just a few gems just to the background. This was the first one I did, and I was so taken with it, how it looked. I thought it would be better if I did 3 different ones rather than show you the same one again, just to show you that it works beautifully no matter what size card you're using and what set of stencils. It's just something a little bit different. But yeah, that grey pad is awesome. It's such a fabulous grey, and you can still get depth and interest in that grey. I mean, nobody would think I've used one pad there, would they? You'd think I'd used several different greys, but I think you could say the same for all of Lisa's blending pads, to be honest. I think they're just so useful. I never use anything else. I can't remember the last time I used a different ink pad. So those are my cards for today. I hope you found that interesting, useful. I hope you give it a go, because I just think it's such a cool idea. I'd like to wish you all a very, very happy Christmas, a much better new year than we've had of 2022. I for one will not be sorry to see the back of 22, to be honest. So have a fabulous Christmas. Enjoy spending time with your family if that's what you're doing, and enjoy whatever it is you choose to do at Christmas. Enjoy yourselves, stay safe, look after each other, and I'll see you next year. So thanks for joining me, everybody. See you soon. Bye now.